Hi everybody, welcome back to Leading Blind, and in honor of the scariest month of the year, this is my horror movie tag. What is the first horror movie you remember watching? For me, it would have to be Poltergeist. It's the most synonymous series to me for my youth growing up. I had all three movies pretty much memorized. There's just something so special about that series for me. I mean, in the first movie, you had the terrifying clown that just that thing really scared the hell out of me. The tree eating the little boy. I mean, I always remembered it, even though I'm pretty sure Julian Beck's character in the second movie, Kane, I'm pretty sure that he scared me more than anything in the first movie. But now, especially as an adult, when I rewatch the first Poltergeist, I get chills for completely different reasons. I mean, now I'm a wife, I'm a mother. There's so many other reasons that you would connect to a story rather than, ooh, there's scary ghosts. And that's pretty amazing. So, yeah, Poltergeist is the first horror movie that I think I ever actually sat down and watched for myself. Question 2. What is your favorite horror movie? This is such a hard question to answer. There are so many good movies out there, and I have loved horror since middle school. And I'm in my 30s, so that's a lot of horror history. But I guess if I had to pick, I might pick Candyman or Hellraiser, but I'm gonna go with Candyman. They're both Clive Barker, interestingly enough, and I think that's sheer coincidence. Candyman is filled with such dread. It's got such amazing acting, such an iconic villain, even though in many ways you shouldn't even consider the Candyman to be a villain. The only reason he's a villain is because he is a killer, the killer. So yeah, he's the villain. I guess I should scrap the fact that he's not the villain, but he's the type of villain that you can connect to because he's a villain of circumstance. You know, you look at Candyman's backstory and you feel so bad for him. So bad, and you completely understand his motivations, even though it's turned into something else over time. And the setting is amazing. There's just so much that's good about Candyman, and it did scare the hell out of me when I first saw it. I'm pretty sure I did not see it when it first came out in 1991, because I would have been about 8, and although I was allowed to watch pretty much anything I wanted at that age, I don't think I graduated into full-blown horror beyond Poltergeist yet. So, yeah, all hail Tony Todd. What is your favorite horror genre? I personally love psychological horror. That could be in so many different subgenres, from ghost stories to serial killers. It encompasses a lot, I realize that. But when I say psychological horror, I am thinking of movies, and I'm not just going to list horror movies because psychological goes everywhere. But I'm thinking things like Shutter Island, Silence of the Lambs, Perfect Blue, and, well, this isn't psychological horror. I'm not even positive it's psychological, but you can take different things away from it. K-Pax. But, those are the types of movies I absolutely, absolutely love. There are things like Sinister that are great, and we'll talk about that later on in the list, but, that's not as psychological. There are deep psychological elements in that movie as well. So, anything that messes with your head, I hated psychological for a very long time because I hit a certain age and The Game came out, a Michael Douglas movie. And if you want to talk psychological fuck fests, oh my god, that movie fucks with my brain. It terrified me. And there's actually a song in that movie. I think it's Crimson and Clover. It was used so well, and you guys, you know me by now, music will really give me a visceral reaction to a movie or a scene. I'm terrified of that movie. I will not watch that movie to this day because of that song and that scene. And I grew to love it. I grew to love being scared for those reasons. It took a long time before I could get there, but now it's my favorite. Anything that will fuck with your head and make you question things is a complete and total blast. What genre scares you the most? I may love my psychological horror, but usually those are intense and they tend to be more thrilling. So, the one that scares me the most is probably anything supernatural. I mean, you can look at movies that take place in complete normal, non-supernatural modern day, and you can get scared shitless. You can watch The Stepfather or things like that. But I like supernatural movies, and usually they have a religious tint to them because I grew up Catholic. It was a religion I chose at a very young age. Now I'm not even Catholic, I wouldn't say. I'm more agnostic. But that's what happens when you grow up and you learn how to form your own opinions. But I do still lean towards a lot of those beliefs and those deep feelings because I've grown up with them. So, yes, supernatural movies, religious movies, those tend to scare me the most. What is the last horror movie that scared you? For me, I would have to say Sinister. There are movies that will have moments that'll scare me or I'll get tense, but I rarely get scared. I can get incredibly uncomfortable. Like I felt intensely uncomfortable during the fairly new movie Amelie. Or is it Emily or Amelia? Emelie. It's the babysitter movie. That one made me severely uncomfortable, scared, but it didn't scare me. I just do not like the position that the characters were in those movies. Like I said, I'm a mom. There are things that scare me now that would normally not scare me. But the last movie to genuinely scare me was Sinister. A lot of people like that movie. A lot of people hate that movie. I don't think it's even the best horror movie, but it had the right things that would scare me. It had the darkness. It had the what the fuck is going on. It had the supernatural. It had the psychological elements. And it had that fucking Icelandic death metal in the soundtrack. And anybody who's watched that movie or listened to the commentaries, they know that that music was played in the actual scene on the films that were made. You know, so they had it playing live when those little home videos were made, and it distorted it enough to make it creepier. And oh my god, just the death metal and the almost thrusting pulse of the drum. That movie hit me hard. I still can't actually sit and watch that movie straight through to this day. Usually, if I want to watch that movie, I put it on with the commentary so the movie is quieter, and I sit here in my kitchen and I just let it play in the background. I've seen it. I know what happens. I don't need to look. I just want to enjoy the experience, but I can't enjoy it full force because that movie genuinely scares me. It's funny how different things scare people. But that, holy fucking shit. I don't know if there's going to be another movie like that for a while. Who is your favorite Scream Queen? I personally, even though I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff, love Catherine Isabella. She was amazing in Ginger Snap. She was funny in Freddy vs. Jason. She was in the TV series Hannibal, and I didn't even actually recognize her. I keep having to remind myself that that's her. You know, the Hannibal, it might have been a cop movie, but it was also a horror TV show, and so that counts for me. I just think that she can play a lot of things. She's good at the dry, witty, sarcastic, bitchy seductress, but she can play a lot of things. I'll bet she could do a lot more than what she's been given so far that I've personally had the honor of watching. But yeah, I really love Catherine Isabella. After that, I don't know if I have one. Maybe Ashley Lawrence from Hellraiser. Maybe Heather Langenkamp from Nightmare on Elm Street. I wish I could say Jamie Lee Curtis, but I actually don't give a damn about her as a scream queen. I prefer her in the dramas and comedies. That being said, I might watch Mother's Boy soon because that looks like a good old thriller. So, Catherine Isabella. What concept would you like to see made into a horror film? I would like to see a horror Wizard of Oz, and it kills me because this project has apparently been in developmental hell for years, like well over a decade. I keep hearing about it. It keeps turning up on these random back page, like in production horror lists. And I want to see it, damn it. I grew up watching The Wizard of Oz. When I was a little girl, I used to have nightmares about my mom being the Witch of the West because I watched it 3 times a day, every day, for about 6 years. And that's hardly an exaggeration. I watched The Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz, Journey Back to Oz. I've read the books like Wicked and Dorothy Must Die and Tin Man, the sci-fi special, which I'm hoping to do a review of someday. I just think there are a lot of things that could hold up to a horror movie. And a lot of people seem to think that. I find fan fiction on fanfiction.net of horror Wizard of Oz stuff all the time. I don't write any myself because my stuff leans more towards the romance, at least when I used to write Oz stuff. But this movie needs to be done. They do wonderful horror fairy tales, and fairy tales used to be horror to scare the fuck out of kids and keep them in line. You know, to teach them lessons about how to survive in the world. So, you did Rumpelstiltskin badly, but you did it, and it was a great guilty pleasure. You did Snow White, A Tale of Terror. You did Pinocchio's Revenge, which I refuse to watch. Why can't you do The Wizard of Oz? Why? What is your favorite on-screen kill? Well, one of my favorites is the death of Frank in Hellraiser. It's so perfect. That's all I can say. It's perfect. But I don't really have favorite kills. That's the thing. If I had to choose, it could be Frank. But there is just one that, well, another horror tuber brought to my attention and made me really think about it. I'd seen it dozens of times, but I'd never really sat and thought about it the way he did. Trash in Return of the Living Dead. You find out that for her, the worst way to die would be if a bunch of old men swarmed around her, started ripping off her clothes and tearing her to pieces. And, well, they're not necessarily a bunch of old men specifically, but a whole bunch of zombies do tear off her clothes. She's already naked. She did that part for them. They tear her apart, or at least they eat her. She looks pretty much in one piece to me later on, except for the fucked up face. So, I feel so bad for this woman, and it was perfect foreshadowing. Almost as good as the foreshadowing in Cabin in the Woods for the merman death, even though the death kind of sucks. And yeah, I think because of the foreshadowing and because oh my god, I can't imagine being killed the way I would least want to be killed, the way that scares me the most. God heard me and decided to just go, well, fuck it, you're gonna get that anyway. I mean, ugh, so poor Trash, you know? Poor Trash. Favorite horror franchise? I have 3 favorite horror franchises. A Nightmare on Elm Street, although the older I get, the less I like all of the movies, even though I still love every single one of them on some level, including the remake. But I do think 4, 5, and 6 are pretty damn weak. Saw, which I really, really liked up until about 5. No, I really liked Saw up until about 7. I couldn't even finish Jigsaw, so I guess that says something. But in spite of loving those so much, and in spite of the last complete trash that needs to be burned, including the negatives, I would go with Hellraiser as my favorite overall franchise. I love 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on just about on some level. I love every single one of them on some level. 9 is a horrible, horrible movie. Doug Bradley's not Pinhead, which is blasphemous, but there's just something I find fascinating about it. Maybe it's just how bad it is. You know, Hellworld has Lance Hendrickson, which is always worth watching. Deader has a different premise. Yeah, it's just there's the actors, Schaefer and Winters in 5 and 6. I like those actors, and I like the roles they play, even if I'm supposed to hate Schaefer's character, which is the point. I hate him, but I love to hate him. So there's something I find enjoyable in every single movie. It's just that the likability goes down numerous points for certain reasons. But I still like more movies from that series than just about any other. And I like more of each movie than just about any other. So there you go. Who is your favorite horror movie director? Well, of course, there are geniuses like Wes Craven. I would say I've seen more of his than any other director. I love his movies. But currently, as of this moment, I would have to say it's Mike Flanagan. I love Oculus and Before I Wake. There are so many good movies that he has made, and it might be limited right now, but I can see the promise for his future, and it is looking good. Here is to many, many years of seeing more Mike Flanagan. I kind of hope he becomes this next generation's Wes Craven, because I really like his aesthetic. I really like the stories he wants to tell. I like how he chooses to tell them. And I love that he's not just trying to make bank. You know, there's so many people out there just trying to make bank. Kind of like Guillermo del Toro does, you know, both passion projects and things that look like they're trying to make a little bit more money. But, I can't say enough good things. I think what I like most about Flanagan is, in spite of all the horror that he's made, he makes his horror beautiful. And it is hard to make horror beautiful. Just ask Clive Barker. Well, everyone, that was my horror movie tag. The first time I ever heard this was done by the Horror Guru. I've also heard Spooky Astronauts Emma do it. I've heard Ted and Dino over at the Late Late Horror Show do it. So I'm not sure where it originated, but if you want to do this video, let me know it's on your intended to-do list, and I would be happy to watch it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.